friend is someone who knows where you came from. Someone who always shows up when you need them.
Hey, Ben.
Someone who's there for the good times and the challenging ones. With comprehensive insurance policies backed by award-winning customer service, Shelter Insurance is committed to being there when you need us most. To find your local agent, visit shelterinsurance.com.
See Agent Shane Jones in Bethany for all of your insurance needs.
For 125 years, Farmers Bank of Northern Missouri has proudly served as your locally owned community bank. From convenient online banking and our easy-to-use mobile app, we're here to meet all of your financial needs. With 10 locations across northern Missouri and southern Iowa, you'll always find trusted service close to home. Farmers Bank of Northern Missouri, locally owned, locally trusted, banking Bethany can count on. Learn more at onlinefarmersbank.com. Member FDIC.
Okay, CF Rainey here on another one of our Sports Central interviews brought to you by Harrison County Community Hospital. Joined by South Harrison girls varsity coach Kale Watson. And Coach, we'll kind of pick up, we'll go backwards a little bit and get to your most recent game. But you had a home game. It was senior night versus Stanberry. And you knew, because they're sitting atop the GRC West, no longer one GRC, but the GRC West. You knew it'd be a tough game. Senior night, I thought one of the great moments that night, Ella Calloway, who's been out with a bad knee, was able to get out there and get on the court. Maybe just talk about that game and how your team responded there hosting Stanberry.
Yeah, obviously senior night, it's always a big night for your kids. You want to recognize them. And kudos to Coach Wynn at Stanberry. She kind of knew the situation and said, hey, we're going to give you the tip so that, Ella can have that moment. That's important to us. And, I can't thank them enough for that. And, I thought kind of as the game started out, I thought we did a lot of really good things in the full court. We were forcing them into some turnovers that maybe they're not necessarily accustomed to. And then we kind of got into some foul trouble. And that kind of took away our ability to apply the pressure that we felt like was going to be an advantage for us. I thought we ended the half really well, went into halftime with the lead. And again, one of those third quarter woes that we've been having a little bit. We kind of came out, and it was mainly on the defensive end. We were doing a pretty good job on offense for the most part, but we gave them some really, really quick, easy buckets. But I thought we did a really good job there midway through the third of kind of steadying ourselves in. We hopped back into our half-court defense and our man-to-man. And then we were able to find some of our weak side dump downs on drives. Lexi Hunter had a really big third quarter. That kind of steadied us through the third, kind of kept our offense rolling. And then I thought in the fourth quarter, we had some girls step up, hit some big threes that kind of kept the separation that we needed. And kudos to Stanberry. They're a good ball club. They're starting to kind of, obviously, if you look at their record and where they stand on the other side, they had a really nice win against Rockport. They're a good ball club. And they kind of made a run at us there at the very end. But I thought we did a good job of executing some of our set stuff to get some easy looks. And then we did a really good job with clock management, eking out the clock at the end. But all in all, senior nights are always, they're emotional for your players and parents. And, what a great way to send our seniors off that night, with a win against a good opponent. So super proud of the girls' effort. And, it was really nice to see all those people in attendance to obviously recognize our seniors.
Well, and it's also one of those things. You talk about senior night emotion. You've got a daughter in Abby, and not only that, but you've been coaching that group of girls since third grade, and that doesn't happen very often. Where you get a group that you've got them and your wife Tori had put together a video, and it was up on the screen of those girls, and I remember those days having a daughter in that group of. You're watching them, you're like, I don't know if these girls will ever play basketball, if they can get together. And so maybe just talk about that a little bit. This group, every group is special, but a group that you've got a daughter there and then you've coached them for so long. And them coming, and we'll kind of catch up to last night's game, 30 GRC conference wins in a row during their 4 years. And just talk about the importance of this group to you as a coach and to South Harrison.
Yeah. Sunday we had practice. And like you said, Tori put that video together, and we kind of had a moment where I kind of unveiled it to him, and we kind of had a nice moment between me and all the seniors that we've had, and like you said, I've been coaching them since I always say they're knee high grasshoppers. And I think the coolest thing for me is that some of my some of my best memories in my life they've been a part of. Whether it was our twins, the twins being born. Just little moments that nothing related to basketball, just life moments. And I've always told them they're like my own kids. I'm going to love on them hard. I'm going to be their biggest fans, and it's been so much fun to get to watch them mature as the years have gone along, and you kind of think of them as your own. And so that's been the coolest thing for me, and that's been with a lot of our players, but obviously the connection's a little different there. um, and I think the coolest thing for them is, you cap off the 4 straight conference championships. But when they came in, they were really, really good when they came in as freshmen. And they did a great job of pushing our upperclassmen. And I truly believe, and I think those upperclassmen that kind of started this thing would agree that they did a great job of pushing them. And I'm sure they didn't like having to bide their time, but they did it with a grin on their face. And when it became their time to start coming into some of those spots, obviously, the things we'd set in place with the group before them, they picked up right where they left off, and they ran with it. And it's always fun when you've got a group of kids that you've been able to watch grow up, and you get to experience some of these awesome things together. And not everyone gets to do that. So I'm extremely fortunate, and I can't thank them enough or say enough great things about who they are as players, but probably more importantly, who they are as people and who they're going to become as adults whenever they go out into the real world and they start to create their own lives. They're going to be successful no matter what they decide to do.
And so we talk about the undefeated GRC 4 years in a row, and that happened last night. You make the long trip on a bus over to Unionville. It's a makeup game, Putnam County. It's a game. If you're just looking at records, it's a team that you should beat. And I know sometimes we don't like to talk that way, but just looking at records, the team that you're favored to win, but you still got to go win it. And you've got to get on a bus and go make a trip, and it's a Thursday night, not a Friday night. So maybe just talk about how that game went together, and you're able to get the big win over there and secure that 4th GRC undefeated championship.
Yeah, I thought we had a really good team meeting on Tuesday. We kind of just stayed in the classroom, and we kind of just talked about some culture type stuff. We just felt like there's some things we've got to address. Nothing bad, just us getting a little more connected, kind of coming back together, because to do this, to cap off your 4th conference championship in a row and going undefeated for 4 years, you've got to do some things correctly. And had a really good practice on Wednesday. And obviously, like you said, it's a team where you're favored to win. Those games are sometimes more difficult because you kind of have to reframe your mindset. And I thought the girls were extremely locked in from the get-go. They were really attentive to the scouting report. And we jumped on them really early. We played with a lot of just poise and executed really, really well in our full court press. And it was a game where I knew our pressure was probably going to get to them, but you've got to execute that still. And Putnam County is starting to play some better basketball. I think they've got some players back. And it was really, really, really fun to watch our girls. They gave us a lot of different looks. They gave us the 1-2-2 in the 3/4 court, bumped it back into the half, hit us with some 2-3 matchup. And we just did a really good job of executing our offensive keys and our defensive keys. And so it was fun to see that. And I think the best thing was that they were way more in tune to the things that they said they've got to get locked back into, which was having great energy and communicating at a higher level. That was happening last night, like in our huddles. At halftime, they're talking to each other. Maybe some things we hadn't been real sharp with as of late. You look at the scorebook again. That's the cool thing about this group, man, is that Lexi obviously led us last night with 22. And she's had 20 plus the last 2 games. But we've got 4 other girls that are chipping in 9 and 8 and 7. And that looks different night to night. And that to me is the mark of a well-rounded basketball team. They all can defend. And you saw that last night if you watched the game or you were there. And they all bring something to the table. They've all got their own roles, but each one of their roles is extremely important. And last night, I felt like everyone that hit the floor was locked into that role. And as the game wore along, maybe their role changed a little bit, but this group's really, really good about understanding that and keeping the ball going to where it needs to go. And so from start to finish, I just felt like we executed really well on the road against a team that, sometimes we've played them and we've been the favorite and they've made a game of it. And I just felt like last night we did a really good job of executing start to finish.
Okay, and so next week, last week of the regular season, you get another former conference team in Albany, and they're sitting at the top of that GRC West as well. They've got a couple of players. I'm always looking. I'm thankful for the Grand River Conference, that website, and I'm a big stat watcher. The two Epperly twins shoot really well from outside. Average either 2 or 2.5 threes per game made, and then you finish up with Plattsburgh. Maybe talk about that Albany game that we'll have here on Bulldog Sports TV next week, and that's a rivalry. It is the closest former conference school to us. I grew up in Albany, and since I've lived in Bethany the last 26-7 years, right, I hear it from the Albany folks if we lose to them in any sport, and maybe just talk about that game. A really good Albany team coming in here next Tuesday.
Yeah, it's got a lot of those ties for me. Obviously Tori's from Albany, my wife. Their head coach is a kid that I coached in high school, is a fantastic basketball player. It's no shock that he's a coach now. He always had a great IQ for the game. And Cody's done a fantastic job with that group, coming in, establishing a culture, and then giving them an identity in the way that they play. And watching them on film, you can see why they're winning games. They've got the Epperly twins that are really good from the perimeter. They've got a nice 1-2 punch with their inside players, and they're really well balanced. And they defensively, they're going to pose some things that we're going to have to be prepared for. They pressure the ball really well. They're tough inside. I'd say that's the biggest thing I've noticed is that they play with some toughness. And when you play a team that's got, they play with some toughness, they're going to come up with 50-50 balls. And it's going to be kind of a battle in terms of you got to try to win more of those situations than they do. And like you said, it's a rivalry game. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no way around it. That's an old seated rivalry that when I got here, I heard about, and I haven't stopped hearing about it since. So, it's going to be a great game. It's going to be an atmosphere that's going to be fun to be in. And I think the biggest thing is going to be, yes, it's a rivalry, or make of it what you will. But you still got to go execute. You've got to play good basketball for 4 quarters. And that's going to be the key for our girls is just, hey, you can't take them lightly. They're not going to take you lightly. And you've got to be ready to execute against a team that's proven that they can win. I believe last year they played in a district championship game. And there's probably no mistake to that why they were there. So it's going to come down to executing, making sure that we're sharp with the little things that we need to do. And then obviously, we got to make sure we're locked into our keys on offense and our keys on defense. So I'm looking forward to it. Those are the games you want late in the season.
Well, and we talk about that one on Tuesday. Then you get Plattsburgh, a team that's dealt with some injuries with some of their players. I know the Howard girl, I think, has been injured a good part of the season. But maybe just talk about what it means these last couple weeks of the regular season to be really playing your best ball as you head towards a district. That there's some tough teams in our district that you'll be playing down in Lathrop.
Yeah. As a coach, you're always trying to balance. As a coach, your tendency is to push, push, push. This time of the year, you've got to be really intelligent about managing the minutes you're on the court with practice in between games. And it comes down to getting shots up. That's probably something I've learned over the years. More is not always better. Quality is better than quantity. So focusing on the things that are going to actually win you games, your special situations, your ability to knock down big shots, your free throws, and then just having an awareness of what you're going to do with your game plan and your game prep. And like you said, you want to be peaking this time of the year. You want to be peaking as you head into districts so that you've got momentum as you head in. So next week's a big week. We've got to continue to keep playing better basketball. And we've got to do a really good job of executing the little things. When you look at really big games in a district tournament, it's almost always going to come down to who executes the little things the best, or that's baseline outs, your full court stuff. And so that's going to be a big key for us as we head into next week. And then obviously making sure we're staying sharp with all of our individual skills. But as a coach, this is one of the funnest times of the year. You know, you can start to add some wrinkles. You can start to kind of do some things that maybe other teams haven't seen. So I'm looking forward to it. I know our coaching staff usually comes up with some cool stuff this time of the year. So I'm looking forward to it. And I think the girls, you know, obviously we're going to have a tough district. It's going to be at Lathrop. We fortunately got the 1 seed, so with that comes some pressure. So it's about building towards that as we cap off next week.
All right. Well, Coach, congratulations on the fourth GRC undefeated championship, 30 games in a row. I mean, 30 games is so many, and to not drop one, that's huge. So congratulations on that, and good luck. And next week, and then we'll talk to you prior to districts, probably about this same time next week. So appreciate your time.
Thanks, CF.